Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with a player ranked first in the world by Dark. In the red, the final boss. It's Dark. Up against his greatest rival, the Terran in the blue, Micro Jackson. It's ByuN. A best of 5 Terran versus Zerg showdown. And while it might be almost 9 years since ByuN defeated Dark to claim the BlizzCon World Championship, which was much closer to the release of StarCraft 2 than today, and while that might make you feel a little bit old, maybe it'll help with a needlessly energetic YouTuber begging you to smash that like button and subscribe. No, Jimmy, no, shut up. What? 1,506 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And while these two geriatric gamers are still playing, I'll probably do it anyways, but thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than these first Zerglings as ByuN's Reaper heads into the main. The Queen pops out and slaps it and inject, realizing that you don't really want to tempt ByuN with early game Reaper micro, as that can end poorly for you, and has historically so one way or another. It's going to be a 3-hatch with no gas at all. ByuN, of course, very aware of this. Oh my. And so incredibly aware, he just pulls a command center out of the SCV magical Harry Potter style backpack and slaps it down on location. And for once, I think ByuN's greed is quite justified, as between the significant rush distance of this map, as well as the clear scout that Dark isn't going for any sort of early shenanigans, you literally physically cannot. With an expansion this early, sure, maybe you could cut drones and try to do some sort of crazy roach hulling, but it's very likely that the Reaper would spot it well before it gets to the other side. And sometimes getting a base quickly makes it easier to defend rather than later on because it's already completed. For Terran, that means you have the ability to just lift off and run away. Whereas for Zerg, you have the creep spread and the production started up. So both these players fully embracing the dramatic macro nature of Neon Violet Square. Yeah, welcome back. And it seems only a token flirtation early on will be happening, as the Queen does not feel like coming out to play for very long. The Zerglings are sharpening their claws on the rocks near the natural that are mostly there to help the other races wall off against the Zerg, and therefore kind of the other way around with the Zerg themselves. Roachhorn is on the way. Gas Gauzers for Dark. A single uncloaked Banshee for ByuN, and of course a couple more racks in production. Hellions filtering through the squares, maybe to pick off some creep tumors. Gets one. Goes for the bounce. Gets one of the Queens away. Actually lighten up another. And looking for more. Susan, is it getting hot in here, or is it just me? Brenda, I think it's a bit of both. Oh, thank you. No, run away. Sorry, I blacked out for a moment. Roach 1 completed. Layers on the way. The Queens were actually pulled to the front line. And that means the inject's a bit slow, but also going for the back pocket base. Very relevant. Unlike most back pocket bases, it has 2 gas geysers, but only 4 mineral patches. So many times you see the more defensible bases have more minerals, not as much gas, usually 1 gas geyser. So very useful for teching up safely and really contributing to that economic explosion we usually see here, as opposed to any sort of early aggression. So the battle mostly being fought in the production tab at the moment. And as is customary between these two, I think at some point, somewhere between the 7 and 11 minute marks, the unit count will explode. As Dark already building 8 Sloaches, he's finished his lair. He does not have roach speed on the way, which is quite an oversight. No other lair tech either. Couple non-cloaked Banshees heading towards the main. ByuN sneaking in, of course. Still can make plenty of use of them, even if there is a spore or some Queens in position. That Reaper, likes to live dangerously. And friendly fire actually helping out. Working on the rocks. I think that was just a misclick there, but Cloak Banshee coming in will spot that's an infestation pit that they're actually forcing to cancel. So, despite the lack of cloak, if there's nothing to shoot back at them, it doesn't really matter how much cloak you have. That infestation bit in Hydra Den already telling a story that Dark wants to tech up as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, ByuN 5 racks and pumping out Marines. He's got siege tanks. Second factory is on the way. Definitely justified, considering he now knows he's dealing with the mass roach hydra sort of strategy. And I think very likely lurkers. But I guess Dark has been dabbling in just roach hydra and then maybe viper. It's an old build, but it checks out. And against ByuN, who has a bit of a rigid commitment to the more old school style Terran, definitely can be enough to deal with it. The Banshees working on the creep, but the queens have been so busy that they actually can't clear all the creep tumors under the scan. There are just simply too many of them. 14 Hydralisks on the way, as we've almost danced enough now. A few drones, a handful of Hellions, a Reaper taken down, but now the game can begin. ByuN steps onto the creep, and we'll see who ends up stepping off of it. The Marines are moving forward. There's no Banelings for Dark. He's actually supply blocked after losing that Ovi. A bit unfortunate. He's got plenty in production, continuing to bring units forward. I'm sure he wants Ravagers right now, and is holding back. He just started 2-2. Hive is on the way. Every second you buy is a big one. And the Queens ready to come to the front line. And ByuN, well, it appears I lied. Yes, it appears everyone will step off the creep, partially because they help clear the creep. Dark doing a good cosplay of a Marine Scout, but I'm not sure how helpful it is here. The tanks cannot go in the squares. All right. There is no right angle for them. They have to go around, whereas the Marines, Roaches, and Hydra certainly can. So we'll see how that shakes out, as it's a blessing and a curse. It really depends on how the battle ends up going. 2 Vipers in production. Nanomuscular Swell. Hydra Lunge is on the way. Nidus Lurker Den. More upgrades across the board. As will you fight already? Okay. No rush. This is about as close as we get to no rush 10 minutes. As ByuN continues working around the edges of the creep. Does not want to commit. He has 2-2 on the way. If he could keep... Hey boys. Now, that changeling was a huge deal. It actually timed out, unfortunately. But the Vipers are ready. It's just Marines, tanks, and medevacs. The Vipers gathering energy, consuming the hatchery. Banshees heading back home for repair. And I think once Dark has as much energy as possible on these Vipers, it's going to be time to go. ByuN is starting to make life more difficult, splitting up the Marines via the medevacs, and then brings them back to the main fight. Lurkers are popping out. Lurker range is not done yet. And Ghost Academy is just now completing, so no direct response. I guess siege tanks are a pretty direct response to the Lurkers, but they're not really a direct response, more of a that entire area needs to go sort of response. But Dark is having none of it. Yanks out one of the tanks. The Vipers looking for more targets. Overseers in pretty plentiful numbers. Not yet the mass changeling style, but it's getting there. Lurker range is completed, +2 missile attack, +2 carapace, all the fixins, and ByuN will not be making any more progress here. A Nidus in the back corner, spotted immediately by ByuN, but now he's aware of the threat, and that's only going to make it more difficult going forward. Trying to take down the Overlord as well. Doesn't quite do so. Home Depot in the back corner. Looks like it's like a shrine. Not to Dark, but instead to the Ghost Academy. A Ghost and a tank will knock out one of the Niduses, as ByuN still holds this position. But the Vipers, yanking in another tank. He knocks out the Viper. But wait, there's more. Another tank. And only one remains to hold this army in place. 5 command centers in production for ByuN. It's clearly not into... He already has... Oh, I thought it said 7, but 4 orbital commands. Just... I think this is not even so much a tactical Nidus as a hear the Nidus scream and freak out sort of Nidus from Dark. Who, the Viper, almost wandering too far forward. But the Nidus completes. I'm sure ByuN taking a quick look around. Nothing in the base at the moment. The sensor towers will begin to cover. Overlord's vision. Nidus coming in just outside of it. At some point, you start sending out so many Niduses, they get desensitized to the noise. The Vipers? No, not the Vipers. The Ghosts. Energy bars all look alike to me, but the Ghosts are not enough. Eviscerated by the Lurkers, and Dark is starting to take a quite forward position. But ByuN with siege tanks behind the squares will be able to hold on to the front line. The Lurkers, though, could go to the high ground. Ghosts do not have Cloak. They have the same range as the Lurkers with range and without Cloak. Ooh, another dozen Lurkers in production. Delays one of the many, many command centers. Banshees are a technical counter, but Hydra Swell is done. The Lurkers are burrowing down. And ByuN, well, he has the high ground. So, I don't know if you want to try it. More Lurkers! 24 Lurkers! Wow, a whole checkerboard here. Viper standing by. And what was once a nice and cozy position for the Terran has turned into a death trap as Lurkers cover most of the angles. Changelings in the main. ByuN drops his own base to deal with an impending Nidus. The siege tanks are slowly driving the Lurkers back. And by that I mean they just killed them because Dark did not back off. He's going to try to jump the tanks either way. The Viper out in front trying to yank some of the Ghosts in. Mildly successful. Slices up another one. Somehow the Viper survives. And ByuN doesn't really seem to have any initiative here. 2 more Niduses are on the way as Dark is looking to escalate. If 1 Nidus doesn't cut it, maybe 3 will. And some of these have gotten very close to completing. ByuN not really paying attention. The Changelings just having a little get-together back there. Here come the Marauders, but it may complete. You can't pop anything quite out. But the Nidus numbers are about to escalate dramatically. Another Nidus over to the left flank. As ByuN is forced to lift his center base. He might have right now 8 orbital commands, the Ocho. But he can only really mine from, I guess it's 5 bases at the moment. But the main base is mining out of minerals. The back base only has 4 patches. The natural's starting to dry up. The income right now, not too bad, as we're still quite early into the game, but as time goes on, you don't get compounding interest. You just get compounding Zerg. The Lurkers all popping out into the firing line. Some of them will escape back into the Nidus. The army is now, well, that was quick. Somehow ByuN has less Marines and Marauders than he has Ghosts. He very efficiently got, oh, the triple Nidus! A campaign level of Niduses. That's not enough to stop him. Taking out 1 is not good enough. Taking out 2 is not good enough. The 3rd one is certainly the charm. And the Lurkers. I don't know what ByuN was looking at. He was cleaning up some Lurkers at the front, but he did not realize the sheer magnitude of Nidus worms that were burrowing into his main. And now what? This is dark space now. There was no subtlety about this as the screams continue to shriek throughout the entire map. Down. Ghost Cloak is denied. 3 more factories on the way, I assume somewhere else, as the Ghosts try to line up their shots. But there's plenty of Hydras here as well. Without Ghost Cloak, they're entirely vulnerable. There are 5 Nidus Worms in the main right now. Oh my. It appears he chose to take out the Mutas instead of the Niduses in that campaign mission. Little did he know Mutas are much easier to deal with. Triple Nidus at the back natural. A couple being taken down to the main, but it only takes 1. The damage is already being done. Popping out. The other benefit of multiple Niduses is actually popping out a meaningful amount of units quickly instead of trickling them out 1 at a time, like you're squeezing the last bit of toothpaste out of the tube. The Ghosts are sitting in the main, mostly panicking. The siege tanks, though. This is just a campaign. It's just straight up a campaign mission. Okay. Dark throws every Zergling into the tanks. He's gonna try to escape. Oh! Outranges the Ghost. A triple Nidus at the front. More Lurkers on the way. He's re-establishing the main. It never got clean. He didn't take out all the Niduses, but wait! There's more! There's Dark in the main, and the darkness could hurt him. High-sec auto-tracking, building armor on the way, but ByuN's starting to run thin on resources. Dark is spending a lot on this. Niduses are not free. 75-75 apiece. So, he's lost 21 Nidus Worms. Wow! Dark has lost over 9,000... What? Over 9,000 gas. Compared to ByuN's 3,300. So despite all of this, the more patient nature of ByuN may eventually win out. But Dark is kind of just taking the entire map, so there is that concern. There are plenty of bases to continue mining from. There is not a real risk of Dark mining out in the next half hour. It's probably, I think it is the most bases of any map in the pool. So Dark still has like 3 or 4 more relatively accessible bases to work with. Whereas ByuN is sitting here doing his best Jimmy Raynor cosplay. But he needs the artifact to go Nova. Otherwise, there's very little chance of really turning this around, as Dark is starting to play a bit of a roguelike strategy. He's got a bunch more Overseers, 14 Overseers. Not quite the mass oversight committee sort of strategy, but we're getting there. Baneling speed is now done. Baneling's added into the composition. Planetaries and orbitals scattered throughout. Yeah, we're sitting on 9 orbital commands. There's 100 creep tumors out there. As ByuN, his army supply is still massive. But Dark, he's adding in the Lings and Banes, just throwing whatever he can out there. There's still a Lurker. Zerglings? How many Zerglings is it worth it to lose to kill 1 tank? Is the answer about 50? If so, that was cost effective. And at this stage, you know, it's not too bad to be losing. Sir Richard and his merry band of swarm host brethren. You know, it actually makes a lot of sense. We've seen Dark do this. This is his take on the free unit late game. Instead of just mass changeling, the swarm hosts, I think Rogue has also done this as well, but these swarm hosts may not get much done, but considering the army is mostly siege tanks, and if even a few locusts land in the right location, those siege tanks are going to be more frenemy than friend. He's Nidusing 3 different locations on his side of the map, which is about 2/3 of the map at this stage. The triple Nidus spam. And the creep is just everywhere. Swarm hosts unleash their first wave. Lurker burrows down. There should be enough scans. He can see what's happening. Can he stop it? That's the more relevant question. Dunks down. 1 tank. 2. Working on a 3rd. He does have 3/3. Lurker delaying yet another base. There's over a dozen command centers out there. ByuN has still played a very cost-effective game, but eventually it feels like ByuN never even really attempted to attack. He kind of just held his ground and waited for Dark to make a mistake, but he never did. More Niduses. I don't even know, like, is this... I think he's mostly just trolling him at this point. Like, just whipping out 3 Niduses in semi-random locations. I guess you can reposition your entire army so quickly if you have multiple Niduses, but... Small bio army, and the Banshee! Did he never repair the Banshee? You know, that's real on brand. Another Hydra gets taken out. ByuN in 20 minutes, had all this time, did not repair any of the Banshees. The triple Nidus at the back. Siege tank doing a lot of damage, plus 3 is completed. But again, 3 Niduses is too many. Might be able to take down one of these medevacs. Just gonna go straight for the tanks. Throw away whatever he needs to. 1 Nidus completes at the back. Ah, Ricky, no! Save me! The Locust! This one you can... Wait, he doesn't have Burrow. The triple Nidus at the back, though. The Locust killed! Avenge me! The Locust killed the tank. 5 tanks and 2 Hellbats at a time as ByuN just goes to Ghost Mech. Which, you know, Hellbats are a remarkably effective counter to the Swarm Host and Locust. Not that the Locusts are a particularly hardy creature either way, but Hellbat's not a bad choice here. And the Lurker count has dwindled to 2. I think the Hydras in production are about to become Lurkers. Parasitic Bomb doing pretty much maximum damage. And might actually take out... Oh my, so many of those almost dead. Another Nidus. But Dark actually does have to beat the army. Nidus is just all over the place. There are 17 siege tanks and counting. He's making 5 at a time. The ghosts get caught of all the units. Viper's parasitic bomb wiping so many units out of the sky. Incidentally kills a lurker. I don't think Hydra swells off cooldown, but ByuN down to 160 supply. Almost total mech composition now. Triple Nidus continues. 35 Nidus worms and counting. The screams will continue until the Terran morale improves, and I don't think it's been any lower. 9 infestors, a neural parasite, and burrow on the... You know, not having burrow seems like a bit of an oversight at this stage, but the Zerglings trying to split, and successfully doing so, breaking through into the center base. Another 13 swarm hosts on the way to replace this supply. As the siege tank count has grown too damn high, he needs something that can at least temporarily fly. Otherwise, almost everything else will immediately die. Infestors are done. Neural Parasite. He can scan most of the map at all times, but if he even forgets to scan for a split second, that Neural Parasite could decide the game. ByuN trying to move out again. He spots the infestors. Fungal's thrown out, which will scratch the paint on those tanks. And now the infestors are revealed. There are 18 swarm hosts, though, and I think that's the most relevant part, is the Hellbat's working on one of the hatcheries. Dark doesn't have that much in the bank that he can just throw things away here. Holding down the tanks, but a wave of locusts coming in from the side. The infestors with the fungals, and the locusts dropping down. And ByuN will say win the fight. More like survive it. And more Hellbats. He's throwing everything at him. Hydras dash away. Trying to wait out the cooldowns. Ghost line up more shots. And ByuN actually is still winning here. But eventually the swarm host will recharge. And once they do, well, for some reason ByuN is still here. Here comes another wave. Well, the tanks are jammed in. That's a lot of locusts. A Thor. When did the Thor get here? Some Thors in the mix. And Dark is still at 200 supply. ByuN under 100. In one of the... I think he's got it. Neural Parasite. GG. ByuN just taps out in one of the more confusing games. Entertaining, but confusing, as ByuN decides he's going to become a mech Terran about 15 minutes in the game, like this is Brood War. But Dark certainly doesn't respect his choice to identify as a mech Terran. He likes his choice to identify as a dead Terran. So Dark just, with the Nidus spam, and pretty much whatever else he felt like building, will crush his way through ByuN and claim a decisive victor. At no point did it look like ByuN had the army to move out. I think he psyched himself out and was too scared to go outside. And we've all been there. I mean, outside and then regretted it, but, you know. Game 2. El Dorado. I think a map much better suited to ByuN's favored style of Marines, Medevacs, Marauders, and also more Marines. Especially compared to Neon Violet Square of all things. Alright. Well, did we get... No, we didn't even see a spy. I was going to say, did we get every unit? Not even close. We barely even saw Ling Bane. As Dark working those more meaty units from the mid-game. Swarm hosts, lurkers, Nidus. I like the solution that Zergs have found to Terrans dealing with Nidus worms in the late game. It is quite an elegant solution. It's just build more of them. All right, just if one Nidus is not enough, 2, maybe 3. All right. Well, there you go. And actually, that game turned entirely towards dark when the triple Nidus actually worked. 2 Nidus died, a third one, and now you got lurkers in your base. It was all downhill, somewhat literally from there. Dark mining through this side corner in order to take that low ground base here on El Dorado. The gold minerals abound. It looks like both players are going to be going for the southern strategy here, which frowned upon but effective, unfortunately. As we're just going to kind of ignore the northern part of the map. Probably unless, well, if they survive long enough, we'll see it. But much of the time, we end up deciding the match down here on the low ground. It's relatively difficult. You can mine through the mineral walls, but between the golden walls of these bases, this map directly inspired by it, according to the mapmaker, and the general layout, rarely do we see a map that starts on the south side really progress up to the north, unless it's the ultra extreme late game. But then again, last game just happened, so... Reaper. He gets a drone! Young man, you come. This is a message from the Hatchery Owners Association. You are wanted for murder. Brenda. Is he gone? Yes, but keep an eye out. Okay, suit. Okay. Sorry. Reaper racks up a drone kill, which is emotionally devastating and economically subpar. ByuN will be expanded to the low ground as well. Dark's already there. Is it going to be a no gas again? Disrespectful, yet effective. I wonder if he did scout for it. Okay, ByuN looking for if the mineral wall is mined out, which is all but a giveaway. Don't actually have to see the hatch, though. Always good to confirm. The Reaper. Right. Go get him. Oh, shut up, Susan. And ByuN with a very... ByuN with the 3-2-1-1. He's going to make a bunch of Marines, a couple medevacs, slap those stims in, and hope for the best. Whereas Dark is building up into roaches. He's got his gases on the way. He's going to be at 50 drones so ridiculously early into the game. Having 3 hatches and injects that early will certainly help with that. Queens trying to sneak up on the Reaper Hellion, which is optimistic. 53 drones at 4 minutes 20 seconds as he blazes his economy to ridiculous proportions. Hellions still kind of holding at the front. Maybe they can pick off a creep tumor, but it's pretty clear at this stage. Well, one, that many Marines being out, and the fact there are only 2 Hellions, giving away ByuN's interest in that early medevac pressure. Also the fact that he's ByuN would give away this sort of strategy. I don't think I've seen, especially an extended series against Zerg, where ByuN hasn't gone for just a straight-up Marine medevac strategy in the last decade. He'll mix it up occasionally, even now and again mech. But there always must be one game, at least, where it's just a bunch of Marines and some medevacs and a whole bunch of micro. It is known. Is that armor first? Does he have 2 NG bay? Oh, he starts the armor. Does not start the weapons upgrade. Is that a mistake? No, there it is. Alright, I'm like double NG base, so. Gold base is on the way. Dark at 64 drones. He has a lair done. No roach speed yet. Just pumping out as much as he can. The roaches trying to get in position without combat shield. Those Marines are quite vulnerable after their stims. ByuN just trying to cut at the edge, but this sort of strategy not ideal for breaking the sheer biomass of the roaches and queens. There's just a lot of them. He's going to be able to pump out even more as time goes on. Dark is more than happy to trade to reduce the critical mass of Marines here if possible. But the Marines are going to dart over to the north side where they can be extra annoying. Some Ravager, well, one Ravager on the way to heal that roach for free. Promotion and medical treatment all at the same time. Hell yeah, brother. 13 more roaches on the way as Dark has committed to holding down the R key for most of the rest of this game. ByuN already has a second factory in production. He knows what he's dealing with. He knows siege tanks, once again, are going to be a strong answer. I think last game he maybe got a little too carried away with the siege tank count, but darts away from the corrosive bile. Dark definitely wants to mine through that mineral wall in order to be able to actually maneuver his roaches and ravagers in between the north and the south sides of things. But for now, the Marines will enforce the mineral border. Checkerboard depots to make roach ravagers' lives a bit harder if they ever try to attack him. And I think right now we are not too long from seeing that happen. As Dark, he's got his upgrades completed. He's got roach speed done. He's got enough back at home to deal with the drop, so there's really no reason not to go on the attack. He's done with that mineral wall. Alright, sends like 12 drones over there. Dark is nearly maxed out. Is ByuN ready for the onslaught? He knows it's coming. 2 tanks at a time. +1 mech weapons. But here come the roaches and ravagers. Corrosive bile sprayed across the board. SCV's already pre-pulled. Double drop finds some damage. Zerglings scrape it at the door. And the Marines, one SCV doesn't quite repair in time. But the drop makes it into the main. Will drag a lot of dark supply back. The roaches and ravagers will transfer over to the north side. The queens, get off my creep! And now roaches, ravagers at the front. The siege tanks not in position to deal with this. Going to have to move several of them over. And everything that was dealing with the drops can now come in on the low ground as well. Another shotgun blast of corrosive bile, looking to hit whatever it can and force ByuN out of the way, who's supply blocked. He lost the entire wall of depots. And now he can't even build more units. 133 to 194 supply. Another rain of roach ravager fire will be dodged for now. But ByuN did not start the 2-2 upgrades the moment he could. He was focused entirely on building up the mech army. And here come the tanks out of position. They didn't move, but Dark did. And now he takes down 3 out of 4. No, more Ravagers. Another wave. Knocks out yet another tank. The defense is being dismantled from both sides. Dark starts an infestation pit. Another round of Zerglings. He's not going to pigeonhole himself into this relatively low-tech composition. But if it's enough to roll over ByuN, I'm sure he's happy to do so. Baneling Nest is on the way as well. Dark doesn't want to risk attacking the siege tanks one too many times and then giving ByuN the opportunity to counterattack to great effect. But for now, there's not enough tanks to throw this back. The corrosive bile is actually landing somewhat within the Marine Marauder army. Zerglings in the mineral line drawing some of the tank fire into the SCVs. A dozen SCVs dead and counting. A whole bunch of them in the red. Medevac energy being used to heal SCVs, which will exhaust it rather quickly. ByuN redirects. Another wave of Zerglings. There's no wall. He never rebuilt it. And I think ByuN's starting to realize that now. But a little late, the Zerglings. Looks like he'll very likely build that wall yet again. Roach Ravager throws up the bios. Ooh, clips some of it. But ByuN, the closer he gets to 200 supply, the better off he is. This army is just better at even supply. Dark is going all about quantity, being the quality of its own. And +2 Carapace is about to complete. The upgrade advantage will actually go to Dark to some extent here momentarily. A 4th command center trying to land at the gold. The siege tanks, quite a helping of them shelling. And even with Bane speed finishing, I don't know if he can attack this. But on the bright side, Dark has a hive nearly complete, and Vipers could break... What? Dark has the other gold. He has 2 gold. Well, but barely a competition with mules. Corrosive Bow's almost knocking out the command center itself. The Banelings, no speed, but getting out in front of things. Another wave tries to machine gun it down. Not quite. Needs to pull at least a couple more SCVs off the line. The Vipers are halfway done. ByuN still at 160 supply. Unable to bounce back. He didn't rebuild the wall, which means the Zerglings can get in. Oh no. Doesn't even try to go to the main. But the door's open. For a second, he thought he might have an opportunity, but more Roach Ravager coming in. Sprays some more corrosive biles. Knocks out a medevac. Gets a siege tech. Zerglings in the natural. 10 SCVs dead. More Banelings rolling in. Going for the command center yet again. Another machine gun. He sprays all over the command center, trying to hit anything that runs underneath as it does so. Adrenal glands on the way. Vipers gathering energy. And a couple blinding clouds might be enough to just roll all the way through this Terran army. Dark has kept the pressure on, despite the fact that ByuN obviously knew what was going to happen. That doesn't necessarily mean he could stop it. Well, Dark is going to face the largest army of ByuN that he has this entire game. But Dark will also have the best tools for negating this army and making it much more plausible to take it out. The Vipers are spotted. There's not really enough Marines to deal with it. Blinding Cloud, 3 tanks. Another, only 1 out of 7 tanks. They're blind, and now they see their death coming right for them. 11 SCVs, all the siege tanks but 1 on the high ground. A spray of corrosive bile, and ByuN still somehow manages to circumvent outright destruction. But his medevacs are exhausted. His siege tanks are decimated. His Marines and Marauders in autumn colors. 11 SCVs dead alongside. The worker count's still pretty healthy, and ByuN can drop mules as well to supplement. But another wave of Zerglings is coming through. The Vipers are consuming and recharging their energy. +3 infantry armor is actually done for ByuN, but adrenal glands for Dark. The tank count's still healthy enough. That wasn't I really thought that would be a game-ending move, but ByuN holds yet again. But more parasitic bomb. Just throws it onto the medevacs. The tanks, the Marines and Marauders are thinning out. The tanks are being taken down. Another wave of Lings and Banes behind. +3 Carapace done. Dark's units at maximum armor. And now the corrosive biles. Banelings rolling in. The SCVs, the command centers themselves vulnerable. Dodges with a medevac. ByuN. The siege tank. There's just nothing left. Dark overruns everything. The sheer quantity of units thrown at him. The economy, he had double gold. That's a massive 4,000 minerals a minute. And now Dark is on match point. 2-0 to the final boss. As ByuN just coming up short both games so far. A very predictable Terran style, and Dark more than ready to sledgehammer it to death. And it feels like ByuN's trying to put up his defenses, and here comes Dark. And the wall doesn't crumble the first or the second hit, but it certainly is not feeling nearly as sturdy. I don't know, like the double drop at the back even did some solid damage, but I think it's still true. You have to keep the pressure on the Zerg. You see what Clem, just look at Clem, all right? There's Clem, and then there's everyone else. Clem always from the very first Reaper to the Hellions to the Banshee, always in your face, sometimes behind your face with those units, keeping so much pressure on. ByuN has gone for the more classical style of hitting sharp timings and making sure you have all your production up. But Zergs are so good at exponential growth. That is the whole thing, right? The lore accurate way. And when you do allow Dark to go with a gasless build and have a gold base without really being under any pressure, like, 50 drones at 4.5 minutes? That's madness. He has an economy to max out on roaches before 8 minutes with up. No. No, you can't let him. You just can't let him do that. So, what does ByuN have in store? Abyssal Reef. Another map, Back to the Future. It's a little weird having these kind of old school maps from 5-ish years ago back in the pool because there were so many iconic games played on them. It feels disconnected with today. Like maps kind of define an era in StarCraft 2. Like when you see a map, you should know when that was. Like when you see Steps of War, you got a pretty good idea. When you see Daybreak, for example, Overgrowth, Frost. But Abyssal Reef is now in a bit of an identity crisis. Being the map that ByuN got Reapers nerfed on. You can go see ByuN micro Reapers so ridiculously well that it looks literally impossible to beat. And Blizzard agreed, so they nerfed the Reaper not once but twice. First, the grenade cooldown. It used to be 7 seconds, now 14. It used to do 10 damage. Now 5. Because 4 grenades would kill a Zergling, and ByuN made very, very good use of that. I forget which one was first. I think it was the cooldown, which is a bit less of a nerf, and then the damage on the grenade. That hasn't necessarily stopped ByuN from continuing to use Reapers on a regular basis, but he seems to have dropped off pretty dramatically. We saw last year, much of the time, the 2 racks Reaper opener. Sometimes 3 racks, usually 2. Keep the pressure on, get like 3 to 5 Reapers, and maybe occasionally go for the mass Reaper style, but I have not seen any of that in the last few months, so it seems to have dropped off. Partially, I think, because Zergs have gone back to more Roach-heavy styles, whereas Dark right now is going with a Zergling-heavy style, which is very notable because we are 3.5 minutes in the game, and he only has 28 drones. He's just running out with a bunch of Zerglings. Oh, ByuN did not go for a Reaper, which means he didn't really scout. You saw the third base. Oh no. Well, this is not good. This is bad. This is really bad. Oh no. Oh no. The Zerglings just get into the main. Everything comes back. It's an absolute dark. Oh, he went straight for the main. And I might as well gamble it, and it works out. 5 SCVs dead. He drags what little army there is back. Still enough Hellions and Marines in order to deal with it. Oh my god, the shark! Ah! Don't look! Don't look at the Overlord! What Overlord? There's only shark. Well, ByuN tries a bit of something different. I think it wasn't even a Hellbat push. It is now, but it wasn't before. It was just a few Hellions and some Marines, and that is a queen killing push. If Dark had gone for the gasless play, yet again, that would have worked great. As there's only slowlings and queens, which having those Marines in the medevac actually makes it very difficult. But it's just a bunch of Zerglings. And when you don't Reaper scout, you don't get a reliable bead on what your opponent has the option to do. So, more SCVs dead. The thing is, Dark, it doesn't have an incredible economy. Well, Overlord almost goes down. Viking pulls back in time. He actually built a Viking. Of course, the Zerglings are coming back around. And a couple split off to do pretty much everything else. Spots the armory, by the way. Roach Warren's on the way. Spotting the armory is kind of a huge deal here. Knowing for sure that he's going to need anti-Hellbat. Zerglings are okay. Queens, much better. Roach is best. And moving forward. Third base on location. Oh, ByuN. He doesn't cancel. Oh, it's a rough day today. The queens. Ladies, it's our time. It's always our time, Brenda. We're pretty much the entirety of early and big game defense. Less talking, more killing. Never mind. You're... Dark Winds. A bit unfortunate final game there as a decisive victory. As ByuN just... It feels like one of those where you're so tilted that everything goes wrong. The doors, the depot's down. This brings us to our anti-spoiler bonus game, by the way. Especially for a clean sweep and a 3-0. And I would really love you to check this out. A 2v2. I know Thermal is holding a 2v2 tournament. We're going to have some replays from that as well. But another 2v2 match. I've been slipping them in there, trying to... The first one's always free, and then the second one will be an actual 2v2 match, maybe. But let me introduce our players. We're only watching one of this series, but I've been wanting to show more of the team games. There aren't too many tournaments out there, really at all. Jimmy? No, that's not close enough. We gotta sit in the right... Gotta have something set up for this. But, good enough. Let me introduce... Team Hyper 1. Team 1, for short. I believe that's a community organization and some semi-pro players, including 3, and Han Mono. You might have seen him in some of the other tournaments as well. And of course, we have Team Shopify's Lambo, who's playing Protoss, by the way, here, and Team Liquid's Laser. So, instead of playing double Zerg, Lambo chooses to play Protoss. Honestly, Zerg is in a weird spot in 2 versus 2. Or team games in general. Because it can be very good in certain scenarios, but you also can easily screw over your teammate just by existing. Because, of course, the creep, in many cases, just from your hatcheries, can potentially block the map. I think most of the maps used in tournaments don't have that issue, but some of the maps were designed before we slightly increased the amount of creep from hatcheries a few years ago. And 2v2 maps were not adjusted for that. So, and unfortunately, creep's creep. You might be like, well, in co-op I can build on creep. That's because everyone can build on creep. The AI is just coded to be marginally nice and not build on your creep. But you can build on any creep in co-op. Imagine the cannon rushes. Or you might, actually, depending on how much of a Carrick's enthusiast you are. But, Han Mono, our only Terran, Lambo, our Protoss, a Laser, and 3 are Zergs. So, half Zerg in this 2v2. Reaper and some Zerglings on the way. A Baneling nest behind. So, quite a dangerous opener. Just straight up Baneling bust. With Han Mono isn't actually going for any sort of crazy aggression, so kind of interesting to see the unilateral aggression from just one of the players. But maybe, so I feel like as Zerg, you have to really choose. Are you going to be the early game pressure player, or are you going to be the mid game nightmare? Because doing kind of mediocre, kind of standard Roach Ravager-ish doesn't really work. By mid game nightmare, I mean like Nidus Swarm Host, Mutas, Lurkers, something that really supports whatever your teammate is doing. But it appears 3 has chosen the early rush. The Zerg rush, if you would. And a Laser has a bunch of Zerglings on the way to Baneling Nest as well. The Adepts and the Queens are targeting, but he's just going straight into the main. And the drone's vulnerable. Oracle being chronoed out by Lambo. But the Zerglings are already on the mineral line. The Laser really struggling here to deal with this. He only has 23 drones. He's actually thinking about going for the Protoss, but it does get cleaned up. Energy recharge on the Oracle. So one thing about the dedicated pro players like Lambo and a Laser, it feels like when we see them in 2v2, they're doing 1v1 builds next to each other. Whereas when we have some more dedicated team game players, like these two are on the same team and clan here. that's when we see the kind of combined attacks and timing and more coordination. And that can easily surmount whatever level of mechanical skill your more conventional pros have. But it's now a Lambo. No, Laser Lambo. Team Lambo. I just like saying Team Lambo. All right, that's a fun name. So we're going to go with Team Lambo. And the Protoss units are a little more distinct in this scenario. Team 1 and Team Lambo, I've decided. I think they should have to choose team names. Okay, they might have in this tournament from Wardi's team game tournament. But I think every team should have to choose a name. All right. Or have one chosen from like a pool for them. Though it wouldn't be able to show up in game on the overlay, which is unfortunate. But here we are. More gases as 3 techie up very quickly. Looks like he's transitioning from that early rush into the mid-game nightmare. Meanwhile, a laser has bounced back dramatically. He's at 40 drones working on a third hat. What is that? Oh, that's crazy. Crazy SCV. Stop getting distracted. I do this in team games on the ladder, too. I just forget how the game works and get distracted so easily. It's a very weird vibe. It takes some concentration. But the Hell Clones Battle Mech from Han Mono. A strong choice, especially with the Lings in front of you, to help buffer. He's up against Lambo's Stargate, now going into Twilight. He has Blink on the way. Both players trying to navigate the creep. 3 has articulately handled his creep spread and made it very easy for his teammate by simply not having any. Whereas a laser is kind of trying to creep, but around Lambo's base. I'm not sure which one ends up being better, especially considering your opposing Zergs also benefit from said creep spread, but here we go. Spire is on the way for 3. A Sloverlord with Banelings is trying to sneak in. Widowmont. And there is no vision on the edge of the base, because who's expecting 4 slow Banelings? It's unlikely any of these players are. Where are you going? Oh, well, interesting choice on that, but quick split. Han Mono with a good reaction. And, well, that definitely could have been worse. Bitovan kind of gave it away a bit there by trying to split the Banelings. The Dropper Lord now going into Overseer mode. And now Team 1 moving out Hell Clones, as well as Zerglings in front. The Spire is nearly complete, and you can trade resources between players after about the 4-minute mark. Oracles come in to take advantage of the fact the missile turret was taken out. But what does Lambo have at home to defend? He's about to finish Blink, which is going to be very helpful in dealing with this. A laser, he's got roaches with speed, and he's working on burrow move as well. The exchange will continue. Widowmon's burrowing. A few of the roaches actually burrow in order to dodge these hits, eating Widowmine hits with burrowed roaches and dodging the shots. Some Zerglings getting in. Here come the Mutas, as the Cyclones, making him pay quite a toll on the way out. Catches a few Hellions with the stasis. Moracles on the way across. He was able to reposition. The Mutas are flying into a laser space. I'm not sure if there's any anti-air ready to defend at all. They didn't realize what they were dealing with. It's just the Queens. He has to run the drones. And the Mutas may turn all the momentum around. Lambo deciding to go forward. The Roaches, a stasis actually saves the Hellions. Locks onto the Oracles. Knocks down 1, 2 more badly bruised. Roaches moving forward. Mutas still fighting so much damage. The Mutas on the front line as well. There are a few Stalkers here. Stasis behind. All the Mutas pulling back from a laser's base. He's down to 50 drones, but only 50 workers apiece for Team 1. The Mutas helping. The Roaches just tanking the damage with burrow move. Now they're on 3's creep, and it's helping out. Moving forward yet again. The Blink Stalkers. Cyclones lock it on. More Mutas from the back. The anti-air is very limited here. If the Cyclones can take out enough of the Stalkers, and indeed they have, and the Mutas will have the run of the place, but the Roaches will not be stopped easily. The burrow move helping out, now using the, quote, enemy creep, and needs a scan or something. Overseer comes back, scanning for the Roaches. Indeed, they're there. Another one. Missile turret can see it. But overall, a laser being an absolute nuisance with these roaches and helping them live up to their names. The mutas are forced back on the defense, and you can clearly see the much more economic focus from the pro players on the other side. Our team game enthusiasts, not to take away, I believe at least Han Mono is top GM. I'm not sure about 3, but 3 definitely has more team game experience based on the way he's playing. Definitely supporting that Hell Clone sort of strategy. And the only thing keeping Lambo and a laser going is their mechanical skill at the moment. Storm is not done, so has no ability to easily cut through these Mutalisks. He does technically have a Stargate, but I don't think he wants to commit to Phoenixes when he still has to deal with the ground Terran. Mono clearing things up. There's still some stasis. Roaches sneaking through. And laser with more of them. Hive is now on the way. Actually seeing a hive. Wow. The Hell Clones, but the roaches just keep distracting them. Lambo's up to 145 Protoss supply. He's got storms as well. He could potentially use the Templar and a Prism, but I don't think he wants to risk it. Storms softening up the Cyclones. At some point, the Stalkers can blink forward. They're just very wary to do so while the Mutas are still off the map. And speaking of, Storm's on top of the Mutalisk, but he's combining. Where is a laser? When the Stalkers fell, where was a laser? When the main base was ransacked, where was a laser? When the Cyclones locked on, where was a laser? He was working on lurkers. I think he actually really didn't he didn't have any units but a few roaches as he was teching up here. But the Hell Clone Muta drives things back for now. Lambo blinking back the Stalkers. Supplies about even across the board. The roach unburrows in the main. I think a laser forgot he even had it there. Lambo has an observer in a key location. Cyclone's moving by. Some of the mutas getting taken out. 3 has no intentions of continuing to tech up. Just more mutas in production. Hydra zoning out some of the Hellions. Cyclones ripping through the Stalkers, but the Stalkers are thinning out the mutas as well. Roaches get in behind the mineral line. 3 down to 46 drones. And that's not the sort of economy you want when you're going for muta Zergling. 3 Vipers on the way for a laser. Hydraless speed as well. What a game. Oh no, the Hydras! Ping cushioning some more. The upgrades, especially for Team 1. They only have Blue Flame, Mag Field, Zergling speed, and +1 fire attack. That's it. Whereas our Team Lambo has +2 attack and a laundry list of others on the board. But Team 1 very focused on their composition. Archon zoned out by the Cyclones. Targets down. The Warp Prism. There will be no more reinforcements. The Roaches are thinning out dramatically. Blink Stalkers coming in yet again. The Cyclones still helping out so much. The Mutas dwindling in number, but they heal. And with the Cyclones to help with the Stalkers, a second Warp Prism comes up. He just keeps building Warp Prisms. It's that important. And Laser trying to bring a few Roaches in to help. He's got Lurker range on the way, 15 more Hydras, but the Cyclones are just running the field right now. If they ever get an advantage, they can chase them to the ends of the earth. But the Roaches from a Laser, he might not have many units, but the ones he does and where he has them are so critical. Beautifully. The Burrowed Roaches sniped a hatchery. The missile turret at the front. It looks like Team 1's going full all-in. Parasitic Bomb doing terrible, terrible damage to the Mutas. The Storms ripping through the Cyclones. Team Lambo pushed to the absolute limit here. But the Cyclones are in the red. The Mutas have been knocked out of the sky. And a Laser and Lambo are still maintaining enough supply. Hanmano continuing to produce. But 3, GG. He has to tap out. Oh, what a game. And no. A little awkward if you... are you still fighting? I can't tell if these units are just A-moved. No, these definitely microing. Well, technically he gets the resources of his teammate. So, you know, there's still a dream. he can also technically control what units there are, but there are 2 roaches in the main. He's microing his Cyclone hard out. But the Cyclones and Terrans don't have a heart, so unfortunately, it doesn't really have much effect. He's gonna bring it all to... Okay, alright. They had no knowledge of the top right bases. Lambo and a laser leaning on their macro, and it paid off for them. But the burrowed roaches, the unsung heroes. Somebody compose a song. Alright, and I will sing it unless we get enough likes and subscribes. Hanmano refuses. Well, I'm trying to think, but he has no upgrade. I mean, Cyclones are pretty insane, but so is... Alright, more units coming across. The Cyclones are still winning. They're just rallying like it's a direct strike at this point. Okay, guys, you gotta be a little careful because at some point he might have enough Cyclones. It's down. Well, there's 12 gates, so they should have enough. The roaches are now about to kill the main orbital. This is graduating from a yellow to approaching a red card for me, but as they hit the other bases, the charge lot's coming in. The economy is running out. GG. Oh, it was probably the last game of the series, and therefore wanted to fight till the bitter end. And bitter end indeed. But hopefully you're looking forward to more 2v2 matches. Congratulations to Dark with his decisive victory over ByuN. And then a much closer match between these 4. But I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those who have the means and motivation on Patreon. But I hear liking and subscribe. It's still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.